There we go. Okay, starting up another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time covering chapter 13.3. Just gonna take a moment to get the Discord link out there. Boop. Hi, 2 plus 4 times 5. I know that you probably can't stay because of your work starting, so hi and bye. I don't know what your work schedule is like during the week, but I was thinking if we're lucky, there's a chance you'll be able to catch the 13.4 episode that I do later in the week. But anyway, hey Greg and hey Vale. First-ish. Yes, first after the first two. Over here we got the speed draw going of the 13.3 art. We got a bunch of bugs doing their classic airlift where they're grabbing the matches and bringing them to Taylor. It's pretty cool. Vale says, I just round to 1 compared to the 8B people that could join eventually. Yeah, the 8 billion. Yeah. First by rounding. Man, I didn't even notice that on the finished version, how there's like, the shadow of a person in the flames. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's... Boop. There we go. So, as a reminder, the audience participation question was to make some all-new Genesis forms to counter specific capes. And, for the themes, I had compartmentalization. An old classic returns with Taylor mentally acknowledging that she's doing it, and it's helping her stay composed while she's on the battlefield. Vale says, I really appreciate Vic's art so much. Still hope someday it will be posted. It's so cool. Someday. Moving to the chapter review. The chapter starts mid-chase scene from the 13.2 ending. Mannequin isn't trying to hide his movements anymore as he runs towards Skitter's territory. Vale says someday TM. They had to delay their pursuit of Mannequin to retrieve Lucy's body from the previous fight. We learned that after the dogs grow to a large enough size, there's a small dog that forms inside to reform their original body. And Mannequin had killed the dog inside the big dog, and they needed to take time to cut open the outer shell. Skitter thinks that while this took time, it was a non-negotiable point for Bitch, so it was better to stop and get Lucy than to, try to urge them onward without her. Let's see here. Skitter realized only after the chase began, in earnest, that if Mannequin isn't trying to avoid her bugs and running full speed, he's actually faster than the dogs. Mannequin can essentially run forever, has no current injuries, but Gru and Bitch have both been hit by stray shot when Mannequin was firing at the dogs, and Sirius was hit directly. Skitter's about to lose him on the edge of her range, and when he runs left, she yells out, "He's bearing left! Faster, Sirius! He's getting away!" Then, suddenly, Sirius grows even larger with a shudder as Bitch pushes her power out to him. And then I pulled a bit of a paragraph quote here. She looked drawn, the lines of her mouth and the bones of her face that much more prominent. Had I failed to notice she was like that before? Was it pain from her injuries that did it, or was it anger? Skitter's a bit shook and thinks Bitch is drawing on reserves that she didn't have. as we kind of know from earlier in the book, when she slowly increases the size of her dogs, then it doesn't take that much like energy from her. But if she does what she's doing in this scene and pushes a lot of energy out to the dogs at once, then it wears her out quickly. So yeah, not the greatest thing to be doing after you've been shot. But sometimes you just gotta, right? You know, what else are you gonna do? Just not catch up? Mannequin finally escapes Skitter's range after pulling off a maneuver she doesn't really think would be possible and like shocking her by descending through a building super quickly and then passing out a lower floor. She has to look back when she doesn't get a response to her next shout. Bitch looks worse than before, winded, and like her injuries are taking their toll on her. Gru is seemingly in better shape, but Skitter realizes they're both saving their breath rather than responding, which is probably smart here. Skitter's trying to formulate a plan. She and Gru don't have a lot they can do against Mannequin, and the dogs are vulnerable to his newly installed guns. She rightly assumes that he'll have more tricks up his metaphorical sleeve than what they've seen so far. She calls Genesis on the phone and requests a remote body to fight Mannequin in her territory. Genesis says she can be there in 2 minutes, and Skitter thinks his ETA is about 5. She tells Genesis to clear her people out when she gets there. And then Skitter calls Sierra and tells her that they need to clear the people out of the area because Mannequin's on the way. Sierra says, "Got it," and they end the call. It takes another 6 or 7 minutes for them to cross Ballistic's territory to back to Skitter's. And it's a hard ride. She doesn't think up any ideas for what to do when they get there. And, like, her body is also in terrible shape. She's, like, so stiff, she says her muscles are like rocks, so... Skitter clearly has strong emotions about the idea that people will get hurt because of her, but she uses one of her many superpowers to stay calm, compartmentalization. She's sweeping through the area with her swarm, and she's mapping out where the tripwires had been to find out where which ones had been broken. Her mental mapping is already, like, insane. She can, like, remember an area that she was in half an hour ago and, like, where she set up these specific lines and stuff, even though there were, like, tons and tons of them. So, yeah, kind of a badass. While she's coming up with strategies to track down Mannequin, she finds him just standing in the middle of the road outside of one of her barracks. I say one of her barracks, but it's her only barracks outside of her barracks. Signaling to her team, they move toward him to find some of Skitter's people lying on the road, either incapacitated or dead, but without any blood on them. A quiet horror ran through me like ice water. Genesis, too, was on the road, in the process of dissolving. She'd taken on a form of something like a stegosaurus crossed with a scorpion, all brawn and armor plating, with a long, prehensile, wickedly spiked tail. He'd beaten her. So, Skitter, things aren't looking great. This is one of those, like, spiral downward chapters, I would say. Skitter reflexively begins trying to bind Mannequin with her swarm, despite previous attempts being mostly brushed off. When he turns around, she sees that this version of the head has an open mouth on it, and one of the best out-of-context lines in the books happens. It jiggled up and down, silently, mocking. Laughter without sound. "Fuck her!" bitch screamed. So, yeah, I just think that when you take it devoid of all context sounds very funny. Anyway. Bitch charges in on Bentley right away. Skitter starts to feel the bugs near Mannequin dying, and a moment too late, she yells out, "Bitch! It's a trap!" Bitch and Bentley react very quickly, but they're still too late and don't get very far away before they collapse. Bitch tumbles to the ground and can't stand up, so she crawls forward while she's retching. Skitter sizing up the situation. It's down to Gru, her, Sirius, and Bastard. And the longer the fight goes, the more people will die from the gas. Bastard's pretty freaked out, but Skitter manages to get him to go fetch Bitch, so she's not in the range of the gas. No way to retrieve Bentley, though. Oh, Greg says, mannequin coming quickly, jiggling up and down. He's the most suggestive member of the S9 for sure. Oh, definitely. Shit, I didn't think he'd come so quickly. Yeah. Now let's see here. So, yeah, he's freaked out, and he manages to retrieve Bitch, like, fetch her from the road. And then, when he brings her back, then Skitter hoists Bitch up to Gru, and they both work to get her on Sirius's back. She passes along the information to Gru that there's a cloud of gas to make sure he's up to speed. Fuck me. I'd hoped we could at least hit him. Bastard is both too small and too spiky in construction for Skitter to ride, so she grabs the chain to bring him to fight alongside her. He resists at first, but then he relents to her, and the chain is set up so that it tightens around the snout if he pulls, so it's not like choking him, but it still has a method so that he's not able to just like drag her around, because he probably could in like sheer strength. Skitter can't see into Gru's darkness because of her bugs dying when the gas is near them, so she's like asking him to not keep it up. So she wants him to create and dismiss darkness semi-continuously to push the gas while Sirius runs around so Mannequin can't get them. And Gru's like, we need an actual plan to win. And Skitter's like, we need to survive long enough to like get that plan and to let Genesis rejoin the battle. And he's like, it'll be a couple of minutes. That's a long time. Which, all good points on both sides. They decide to split up, and they keep their eyes out for signals, darkness, or swarms of bugs, depending. And Mannequin starts to go after Gru right away. Skitter sticks to the plan, going the opposite direction. Think, Taylor, think! She knows that he's here to hurt her. He's done a good job already by killing 10 or more of her followers and baiting Bitch into the trap just now. She realized that he didn't shoot at Bitch as she was running away, or any of the other times when he was in the gas cloud. She starts sort of testing the air around Mannequin, and she finds that there's less gas and that he's not putting out any more as he's pursuing Gru. Once he's entirely out of his cloud, then Mannequin takes 2 shots at Gru and Sirius, missing both times. But between Mannequin not running and not shooting in the cloud, she's able to figure out that the gas is explosive. So she's got kind of a lot of useful information in terms of like knowing when she can and can't strike and stuff. There was no way to say for sure, but my gut told me I was right, or I was pretty close to the mark. His actions, both the obvious and the minor ones, make a complete logical sense if I assumed he was spewing out massive volumes of flammable gas. Yeah, she's got like really good intuition on this cape stuff, which is part of what makes her so good in a fight. Skitter is unsure if she'll be able to make use of the explosive gas either way, as he might not even be affected by an explosion that would kill the rest of them as collateral. But it lets her know when they need to be careful from the gas and when he's free to like run around and shoot. But it wouldn't be Skitter if she didn't also think of it as a last-ditch weapon that they could use. So Skitter is beginning to gather bug supplies when Gru sends out a signal flare of darkness into the sky. Skitter and Bastard start running in their direction. She grabs the supplies out of the air as she's passing them. It's matches and a lighter, flames. She starts setting up a super tight tripwire net that she's going to fly around that she doesn't think Mannequin could slip through. But then she finds Mannequin and a patch of darkness at the end of an alleyway. Oh, whoops. Need to make sure. Turn off those annoying notification sounds. Did not remember that. Oop. Let's see here. Yes, so, Bitch is on Sirius's back, and he's on the ground, sort of clearly bowled over from either falling or getting shot. Mannequin starts letting out gas, and Skitter uses bugs at various distances to sort of judge the size of the gas cloud without losing too much. No, Val, no worries on the notification. That was... I gotta turn that off so that if I get other messages, then it doesn't go crazy. Normally I always have it off before the show, but I just was not really fully prepped. Let's see here. Gru is using his darkness to stave off the gas for now, but it's unclear how long he'll be able to hold out while doing this. Mannequin! You're going to back off, and you're going to let him go. He doesn't seem too impressed by this proclamation, but then Skitter takes out her fire sources and threatens to light up the gas. She's on the edge right now. Thinks to herself about how maybe it would be a net good if she blew them all up and Mannequin didn't kill any more people. Then she thinks, no bluffing. This is just like one of those classic hardcore Taylor moments where she's just like the craziest person in the room. Well, it's hard to be the craziest person in the room, but she's crazy enough. She's willing to go there. The ploy works regardless. Mannequin lets Gru up, and he starts to move back to Skitter. When he's getting back to her, Mannequin moves forward quickly and aims his gun at them. Skitter dives to knock Gru out of the way of an incoming shot, but this time Mannequin has bluffed her. And he re-aims. Then Bastard tries to jump in, but Skitter won't let him, and she body blocks the shot because she doesn't think Mannequin's going to kill her right now, trying to draw out the suffering of killing other people around her and leaving her behind. But despite all that, he shrugs and shoots her anyway. Story over. Vale says, that's Taylor's secret. She's always the craziest person in the room. Yep. It's weird that they would just end the story in the middle of an arc like this. 13-3. But I guess that's it. Anyway. She takes the shot into her bulletproof armor plate, but is still badly wounded by this. It probably breaks one of her ribs at least. Gru's coating them in darkness to put stuff between them and Mannequin, and then the explosion goes off from the gas, and they're partially covered from the shockwave by the darkness, and by the way, his darkness dampens things. So Skitter's writhing around on the ground from pain, from the explosion shockwave, interacting with all of her previous wounds, and the gunshot, and just every other thing. Gru's trying to help get her up and almost calls Skitter Taylor. He's able to pull her up, though, and then she can get her feet under her once he's helped her. Sizing up her injuries, they sound pretty bad overall. And even though it's Taylor, it's still pretty debilitating. And Mannequin had avoided the worst of things by allowing his body to separate, but still has to pull himself together. And this is where we get that classic oak-willow dichotomy thing where they tell Taylor thinks of the classic proverb, which I think happens 3 times in the book. And as Vale had said in the audiobook listen, it kind of just, it twangs, wait, I want to get that listen party. It was, It's like a dissonant twang during an otherwise beautiful harmony. That's what was said, and I think that was a good way to put it. Let's see here. So, run, Gru said. Skitter is about to echo his sentiment, but then she realizes she doesn't have Bastard's chain anymore, and he jumps onto the fallen mannequin and starts biting the shit out of his arm and whipping around the rest of his body like a rag doll, smashing him into nearby walls and all. Yeah, didn't expect us to be that tough, did you? She's like petty thinking at mannequin. Because she's in a bad way right now. But it's nice for her for a moment to get this. But unfortunately, Mannequin is able to stabilize by stab-ilizing Bastard's neck and face. Mannequin lines up a shot with his free arm on Bastard's eye, but Skitter saves him by pulling the arm right before the shot. Problem being that she gets smashed by Bastard's continuing rampage for her trouble. So, Gru reaches Skitter at this point, and they're helping each other retreat again. Skitter sees the open mouth of Mannequin start to emit gas and yells for Bastard to stay away from him, which manages to work. She's not really sure if this was her or if he just already didn't want to attack this freaky weirdo. But she's glad that he doesn't jump into the gas. So Skitter works on using tissues from her utility compartment and makes a little fire starter. She uses the lighter to light up the tissues and sends them over with a whole bunch of dragonflies. Mannequin stops emitting the gas, and he starts to back away. Gru shields them properly with the darkness this time because he's got more time to set up. But after Skitter ignites the thing, this time they're standing with no more injuries, and Mannequin's knocked to the ground. And up to this point, Bitch had sort of been down. It wasn't clear if she was even conscious, but for a little bit. And then it's at the point where she whistles and pumps up Bastard with more power, suddenly. And so he runs in, much larger than before, and he bites down on the arm, breaking through the carapace, and Skitter thinks, 2 arms in 2 fights, I thought, with a grim satisfaction. So the flames are getting too close for comfort, almost like some sort of foreshadowing or something, and Sirius is starting to get up. Bitch manages to stand up, despite having, really bad symptoms from the gas attack, like constantly swallowing or retching. And Gru takes Bitch so that Sirius can stand up, then hands her off to Skitter so that he can pick up a big piece of rubble and try and smash down on Mannequin. Bitch tries to get Sirius to hold him in place, which he does with a massive paw. Ignore the head. Nothing important in there. I'm not joking. It's a decoy. Get him in the chest. Gru nodded and hefted the chunk of rubble until it was over his head, point facing forward. Would it puncture? Hard to say. Worth a try. Vale says, Taylor does enjoy destroying appendages. Yeah. These things happen. They're parahumans. What are you gonna do? So, right before he gets the chance to slam down the concrete, or whatever the rubble is, they get knocked over by some sort of ranged attack, and then Gru yells, No! You can't interfere! It takes Skitter a moment to realize. First she thinks the Protectorate have shown up, and then she's like, this is a disaster, if they're here. And then she realizes it's much worse when fucking Burnscar is standing there. Gru says she can't interfere, and then Burnscar tells him that he's like, they're your rules. And then Burnscar's like, they're Jack's rules. It's fine. And then sort of figures out a way to circumvent this. Mannequin high-fives her. Things are looking bleak, as she says, there, he just tagged me in. forfeited his turn. So, yeah, now they gotta do this whole thing. So, some final chapter thoughts. Oh yeah, there was this moment earlier on. Giant paws pounded on the wet pavement as we raced for our destination. And I had like this because it's like a single sentence paragraph that makes it feel like time is passing with relatively few words, and it's helped by dividing it off from sentences above and below it. So this is also used throughout the chapter to like get the sinking feeling that Skitter has whenever something bad will happen. A lot of the like little beats will be cordoned off, which I know happens a lot. It's not like new. It just jumped out at me this chapter that it's like done well or whatever, and I thought it helped the pacing a lot. And you know, the first time I listened to the book, it was all audiobook and whatever, so I don't necessarily have all of the pacing of the page itself in mind, unless the reader was bringing that into things, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So it's good to finally read this with my eyeballs, like I read Ward with my eyeballs. Anyway, other chapter thoughts. This is one of those, like, things are going wronger and wronger and wronger chapters, and, like, boy, ugh, sort of leaves a pit in your stomach at different moments, like, oh no, they're all getting killed off, and maybe Bitch is gonna die, and another dog died, and possibly another dog died this chapter. Everything bad is happening. So, yeah. I don't have that much more to say about the chapter. I like it. It's a good chapter. I don't know. It's just generally good. Vale says, that girl is on fire by Alicia Keys. During the anime adaptation, should that song play for Burn Scar as an appearance theme song, or for Taylor when she's literally on fire? I think to me it's funnier when it's Burn Scar, just by a little bit, but I can see why it would be better to some people when Taylor's literally on fire. Vale says, I agree. It is just a good chapter. Yeah. No notes. I don't have any of the minor tweaks or whatever. I just think it holds my attention very well. It holds my emotional suspense very well. So, moving to the characters. Talked about Taylor. She's very, very on edge for obvious reasons. Things are going quite badly and don't seem to be picking up anytime in the near future. This is the first day of the testing, so big woof. She is holding on to, but not feeling, a lot of feelings that are going to hit her all at once later and drain the energy out of her, for all the people who have died, for the dog that's died, for the whole day. Vale says, rising action done well, maybe? Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. I mean, we just talked about Taylor a bunch. She's having a bad time. Brian, also having a bad time. He didn't get shot as bad as Rachel, but boy, he still got shot. He does very well in this chapter. Like, I mean, I think the fact that he was able to scoot his way away from Mannequin after Taylor, like, managed to get Mannequin off him, it's, like, very impressive. A lot of iron willpower kind of thing. Very cool. Rachel, it's good to see her putting this much effort into fighting alongside Taylor when she could have really, like, you know, based on how she's been feeling, like, she could have felt like she doesn't want to bring her dogs into the fight more, but, like, her bloodlust for revenge is enough to I think, push her to pursue this and not give up. Which is good and bad. It's good for Taylor and good for their overall prospects, but probably bad for Rachel because, like, she's kind of self-destructing here. She almost dies in this fight. So, yeah. Mannequin. I wrote here, like if a Batman villain got murderous on purpose. Instead of using purple knockout gas, he uses colorless death gas. Vale says, I'm low-key impressed Taylor didn't notice Gru's impressive musculature during the fight. So far, at least. Yeah, I mean, like, it's so dire that Taylor doesn't even have the time to be horny. So, like, that's how bad it is. That's how we know. God. Yeah, Mannequin, he, not a good guy. We continue to see why we don't like Mannequin. Vale yells, rising action indicated! And Greg says, damn, that is serious. So yeah, I don't know. Mannequin continues to be himself. He comes up with a clever new way to be a dick. I don't have that much more to say about him in that chapter, even though he's kind of the main focus of it. I don't know. He is who he is. Burnscar shows up. Very flippant. Does not care about the idea of the rules. Mannequin clearly is also willing to bend the rules, and I think they both have a pretty strong feeling that Jack isn't going to be mad at them because they caused more chaos. So, like, that's cool. So yeah, Burnscar will have to deal with this annoying lady. My go. I'm taking round 2. I think she was next up anyway, but, like, while the concept of forfeiting the turn could have been something someone would have thought of, I didn't see this coming. This surprised me when I read it. Moving on, we got Genesis. She was unfortunately prepared for one kind of fight, which I think she would have done very well in, and had to fight a very different fight and lost, like, instantly. So yeah, she had what sounded like a really kick-ass battle form that just instantly lost to Mannequin's gas. So Sierra, and by extension, the people in Skitter's territory. Sierra was, like, on the ball. She was ready to, like, get people moving, but something went wrong, and Mannequin was probably able to get here fast enough, defeat Genesis fast enough, and kind of herd people out, and then start doing the gas thing again after gassing Genesis. And, yeah, it just kind of all went wrong. Not great. I know I'm kind of speeding through this, but I don't have a lot more to say about the characters. Well, getting to the powers, knowledge, and world building. We get more about the way that bitches' dogs work here. I wanted to pull out, when the dogs grew, they really appeared to be adding mass, literally growing and stretching. Somewhere in the transformation, after they weren't recognizable as the animals they had once been, their real-life bodies were reformed inside a placenta-like sac. So that's cool and gross. I think we vaguely knew this before, but it's more direct confirmation. So we've got this other section talking about Mannequin's power. He'd been invested in terraforming. Once upon a time, while Well, I read that all wrong. He'd been invested in terraforming once upon a time, making inhospitable environments hospitable. Chances were he was loaded down with custom-made organisms that were primed to generate the gas he was using, maybe even storing it in compressed form. Given his tinker abilities, they could be advanced enough to account for the sheer volume of the gas. It could even be how his guns operated, with compressed combustible gas used to fire the shot. Craig says, a delicious nougaty dog center. Yes. Well, I hope no one is munching on these nougats. Anyway, so where are we? I think that's all I got for the powers, knowledge, and world building. Taylor does think through the capabilities of Burnscar again. I don't think we necessarily learn anything specifically new, but just because of how brief this has all been. So... Oh, and I didn't mention it before, but Taylor had said something about the tone in her voice. It sounded casual, but there was something in it that reminded me of Shadowstalker and Sophia. It wasn't angry like Shadowstalker, but it had the same emptiness. I just hadn't really picked up on it in the past. And so she sort of thinks through her capabilities, and she's like, let's see, defend. Where was the thing? Port. So, where was the? I don't know why, but I'm having a hard time control F'ing this sentence. Maybe it was in the next chapter. I don't know. But either way, I was looking for the part where she thinks through Burnscar's capabilities in terms of, like, she says she wasn't breaking the charts on offense like some of the members were, but defensively I had no idea. Like, she's got the flames and the ability to teleport, that part. But I think that was in 13.4, and I was just misremembering. But anyway, I'll close out with the audience participation. Make some all-new Genesis forms to counter specific capes. And Vale said, it's funny as I think of counters from Genesis, most of the ideas I come up with are similar to concept of containment foam. I really don't want a version of a sticky blob no matter how interesting I try to design it. Everything I think of is just a containment foam. A blob, something that bounces from contact, something that's sticky to hold attacking bits. I am really struggling with this. I'll go with this, even though it's poor. Super fast, tiny, flying, fairy-looking creature that punches hard. It's a counter for Glory Girl, immune to emotion powers, easily avoiding attacks, and able to punch down the force field at any point in time. It's a legitimate counter to TT, or it's a legitimate counter because Tattletale could share the knowledge needed, and not too crazy an idea for her to form easily in her dream state. Yeah. Any basic concept like that, where she only really has one minor power immunity, and then, like, has a minor power of, like, flight and a decent power of, like, super strength, she can just fly up, get the jab in, take out the force field, and then, like, I don't know, they can do others. They can bugs her or whatever. Vale says... Oh, Greg confirmed, yeah, it's in 13.4, the stuff I was thinking about. Anyway, Vale said, I really like the idea of conditional teleportation. Jack Shadow from an old Zelensny book was one of the first I saw. It's a really cool idea. Yeah, I like it. I like the flame teleportation. I think it's like one of the coolest powers. I really like Trickster's teleportation, the swapping. I think it's like an amazingly cool power with like tons of restrictions, so it feels very like, not that things have to be balanced, but it just doesn't feel like crazy that he has it because of the way it's restricted so heavily. And I mean, like, being able to teleport through shadows or flames is pretty good. And I mean, we'll see someone in this book who can teleport through shadows. And we've already had someone claim that Aisha's power was to teleport through shadows. Vale says, completely agree. It just feels super interesting using something that is normally so simple. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna jump down to Greg's answer. I like the idea of Genesis doing fairy tale inspired forms. I want to see her do a wolf from the Three Little Pigs. She can huff, she can puff, she can blow houses down, and probably really annoy any sort of shaker or flyer in the process. Plus speed, strength, and senses to follow up on the opening. I was thinking of Gru, but I could see how this would work against a lot of capes. Yeah, I think a lot of people like Shatterbird, you knock to the ground, then just pounce. Because, like, spoilers, we'll see that happen to her later. And we also see, like, some wind-driven powers knocking people out of the air at various points in Worm and Ward. And it's always pretty effective when they do it, I think. As far as what I can think of, I kind of agree with Vale that a really good power is just like a, like something that it's not obvious, but if you hit it, you're stuck. And then she just drags you out of the battle. So, that was basically always a good idea for Genesis. I also think that, like, the form that she could take for... I think the form she took in this battle that was defeated by the gas would be pretty good against someone like Jack. Like, big and mobile and armored. And so it's, like, not slow, has a couple ways to, like, get decently ranged attacks, like the Stinger Tail, to, like, chase him, because it's going to be, like, an annoying chase no matter what you do. It's not, like, a huge counter, but it's just, like, you can't hurt me, and I'll chase you with probably, like, tons more energy reserves than you can outrun. So, but the problem with fucking Jack is he always has his team around. Yeah, I don't know. Well, moving on. I don't have a good answer. 13.4, the bonus question for when we do the 13.4 episode later this week is, do you think overall it's a good or a bad thing for the Undersiders that Mannequin gave up his turn to Burnscar? And I'm going to post that right now. Bleep. Oh, wait. Vale's typing something. I'm going to give it the chance to go before my 13.4 question. And while I'm letting that type, I will read out the 13.5 and 13.6 thing. Vale stopped. Okay, so 13.5 and 13.6, come up with an alternative plan to Taylor's for attacking the 9. It could be serious, but joke answers are good too. Okay. Well, what I've done, Vale, is I've started typing them, and I've decided that the only way that I'll remember to post the question is that I do it during the stream. Otherwise, I'm just like, I don't know, head empty. But anywho, I'm basically done for the thing. I'm gonna start the outro. Music. Thank you all for understanding that I have reduced it to the one chapter and will be doing my sort of midweek stream to make up for this. And let's see here. Let's get this going. This has used the music from ScarlettXOX, Infestation, which was written for this section of the story. You can find Scarlett at twitch.tv /Scarlet_Rogue. Then we've got the Discord link that's found in the stream description and the channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com, and the fan-made audiobook of the entire work is at audioworm.rain-online.org. I think I'm going to add into the description possibly the other audiobook in the future, because we have been using it, the Worm and Unabridged Production. So you may see that link start to show up, and if I do that, I'll backfill it into the previous episodes' descriptions. But yeah. And Vale says, thanks as always, take care, and thanks for the great art, which will be posted soon. DM. Indeed, indeed. Well, I am going to mute my mic and let the rest of this song play out. And have a good day, everybody.